Hi, everyone. So I hope you can hear me and everything is good. So today we will be talking about the Liberian Refugee Immigrant Immigration Fairness Act. This is one of the best things that has come out since last year. And I believe this is something that can benefit so many people. And we still don't have a large number of Liberian nationals applying for this. So this is why I am doing this live again, talking about this topic, because it is something that I strongly believe in. I believe that if you are a Liberian national and you could potentially qualify for this, you should um, definitely apply, because this is something that just, I believe in my heart, is super beneficial to the Liberian community, and everyone should be taking advantage of it. Um, so that's number one. So I just wanted to introduce myself and what I do. And then from there, we will get right into these, because it is something that, like I said before, it's something that I really want people to pay attention to, because it's something that is so great for Liberians and their family members. So this is not just for Liberian nationals, it's also for their family members, so their spouse and their unmarried children. So again, this is something that, you know, I I always push, and I will continue to push for people to apply for. As long as you meet the requirements, you should definitely be putting your applications in. So let's start with who I am. So I am Lilian. I'm an immigration lawyer based in Worcester, Massachusetts, but I have the great privilege of um, basically representing clients from all over the US and all over the world. So if you, wherever you're watching this from, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad you found this video, and I hope you find it helpful. And if you do find it helpful, I hope that you do share it with your community. Definitely share this if you find it helpful. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the criteria, right? Who can actually apply for this? Who is eligible for this particular, basically it's a green card, right? Specifically for Liberian nationals and their qualifying family members. So who are the qualifying family members? So the family members is your spouse and unmarried children. So your spouse does not have to be Liberian, and your children do not have to be Liberian in order to qualify for this, as long as you, the principal applicant, is Liberian. So that's what that's why I find this really helpful for families looking for ways to gain status in the US. Hi, Mr. Peters. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, Hi, Alvin. Welcome, welcome. And if you have questions either about this topic or any other immigration topic, please feel free to ask it. This Q&A is really for you and not for me. This is to get you the information you need. And if you would like a more detailed case analysis that's specific to your case, please feel free to schedule a consultation with me, and I can really get into the details of your particular case. So, like I was saying, the spouse and unmarried children of the Liberian national principal applicant. So you just need either the spouse, one person to qualify. And once you have a principal person that's Liberian that qualifies, then their spouse, even if they're not Liberian, and their unmarried children, even if they're not Liberian, can still get status. So that's what this really, like I said, that's why I really push people to look at this and to see if they qualify. Okay. So what makes, what's the qualifications for this? Which is the question I get all the time is, I'm Liberian national, but what do I actually need to show in order to be eligible to apply for this? So basically, you have to show that you're a Liberian national. That's first and foremost. So the principal applicant, not the spouse and the children that are basically getting status because of the principal applicant, but the principal applicant has to show that they're Liberian national. That's number one. You have to show that you have continuous physical presence in the US. So this just means that you came into the US and you have lived here. Now, the date that you really need to pay attention to for this is November 20th, 2014. So that's the date that you have to show that you have been living in the US continuously. You're only allowed to have 180 days, which is right around 6 months of absence from the US to still qualify. So if you have more than 6 months absence from the US, that would break that continuous physical presence. But again, that's stuff that we can talk about and see if you qualify still. So the main date to pay attention to is November 20th, 2014. You just have to show that you've been in the US since that date, on that date, and since that date, okay? If you can show that you've been in the US earlier than that, that's also good, because once you get the green card, it will basically have the earliest date that you've been in the US on your green card as the date that you got your green card, okay? So it's really important to pay attention to the physical presence and proving that, meeting that physical presence requirement. And then the last criteria is that you are admissible into the US. So this means that you don't have any immigration issues that could make you not eligible. And if you're not eligible, if you do have that, then we would check if you qualify for a waiver. And if you qualify for a waiver, we can still go ahead and apply for this because, the waiver cures whatever it is that makes you not eligible. Okay, so again, things to keep in mind. If you think you're not eligible because you think you're not admissible, please feel free to reach out to my office and we will do a case analysis for you and see if you are actually not eligible. And if you're not, then we'll look into if a waiver is an option for you. And if the waiver is an option, then you're still eligible. Okay. Now, what makes someone absolutely not eligible? There's three things that make someone absolutely not eligible. And that's if they have an aggravated felony conviction. So that's just one aggravated felony conviction or 2 or more crimes involving moral turpitude convictions. And then the final thing is if they participated in the persecution of others. So these are the three things that would really make you not eligible. Now, I say that, right? Those are the three things that would make you not eligible. However, not every single felony conviction is an aggravated felony or a crime involving moral turpitude. So even if you have a felony conviction, if it's not an aggravated felony for immigration purposes, you would still qualify. If you only have one crime involving moral turpitude, you will still qualify. So again, before you disqualify yourself and basically say, I don't qualify for this because I have this conviction, please call my office, schedule a consultation. Let's actually look at the court documents from your conviction and make sure, one, it is a conviction, and then two, if it's a conviction, are you still eligible? Is there a way to make you still eligible for this? So definitely do not give up hope if you have a conviction, because again, it needs to fit into one of these in order for it to actually count against you for this particular green card application. So again, before you disqualify yourself, schedule a consultation. Let's make sure you actually do not qualify, okay? Now, so that is the, like I said, those are the three main things that will make you absolutely not qualify, but just we have to make sure that you actually fit into these, because I've had people that come to me and they think they fit into this. They think they're not qualified. However, they actually didn't. They might have had one crime involving moral turpitude, but not an aggravated felony. So because it's not an aggravated felony, they could still qualify. Because it's just one crime involving moral turpitude, they could still qualify. So again, it's really important to look to schedule that consultation, just so you know for sure if you qualify or not. So we went over if you're just joining us, we went over who can actually apply for this, and that is Liberian nationals and their spouse and unmarried children. So in order for the spouse and unmarried children to apply, the Liberian national has to also apply for this. So if the Liberian national is already, let's say, already has a green card, the spouse and the children will not qualify under this particular act. But if the Liberian national does not have a green card, does not have status, and could qualify under this, then the spouse and the children that do not have status would also qualify. So those are things to keep in mind, and those are the people that can actually apply under this. So once a child gets married, unfortunately, they no longer qualify under this. They could still qualify independently if they are Liberian nationals. And what do you actually have to show to prove that you're a Liberian national? They are really looking at birth certificate and government issued IDs. That's the main things that you need to show to prove that you're a Liberian national. So if you have your birth certificate from Liberia, or if you have your Liberian passport that's still current, then you can apply for this. So I've had people come to me with an expired passport. The only thing I would say is to go ahead and renew those passports, because we need to show that you, as of the day you're applying, is a Liberian national. And if your passport is expired, it's not really proof that you are a Liberian national unless we can support that with a birth certificate. And I also know that some people, due to the war in Liberia, do not have access to their birth certificates. So the passport is really the best thing we can use for some of those people. So if you are just joining us, please, if you have questions about immigration law in general, or this specific act specifically, please feel free to ask them in the comments. I'm here to answer your questions. It's a Q&A session. I am just giving you information while I wait for your questions. So please feel free to ask your questions in the comments. And if you are joining us, if you're watching this on replay and you have questions, please also feel free, definitely feel free to ask your questions in the comments as well. I will circle back and answer those questions as they come in. So do not feel that if you're not watching me live, you can't ask me questions. Feel free to ask that. And, depending on your question, I might do a whole video just on that topic. So please feel free to do that. I'm guessing the question here is, where can you, please correct me, Alberton, if I'm wrong on this, but I think your question is where you can renew your Liberian passport. Just correct me if I'm wrong. So typically, each country has an embassy somewhere in the US that you can reach out to. I know there should definitely be one in New York. right? There should definitely be one in New York, but there might be one closer to where you live. So I would definitely check online. Like I said, each country has their embassy, their US based embassies. So you can definitely check with them. But it's typically, like I said, it's typically through the Liberian embassy based in the US that you would go ahead and renew that. They would have, okay, Alvin Kennedy, thank you. I love when we help each other. So Alvin is saying that there's one in Washington, D.C. So if you need to renew your passport, I know in some places, depending on the country, you can do almost everything online, upload the documents, especially if it's a renewal and not your first passport. If it's a renewal, typically you can do that online. So definitely check into that as well. And then Alvin is asking, when is the program? When is the last day for this program? So the last day is December 20th, 2020. Okay, this is about a month away, right? You have about a month and 5 days to apply for this if you want to. So definitely that is a hard deadline as of right now, because this was passed by Congress. Congress will need to extend it. So right now, there's not really any new legislation in Congress to extend this. So I'm telling all my clients that December 20th, 2020 is a hard deadline. So you have to file it. They have to receive your application by that date. So if you are mailing your application on December 20th, 2020, unless you're doing same day delivery, it's not going to, you're not going to get it there on time to qualify. So they can just deny your application just because it didn't get there on time. So definitely get your applications in on that date. Okay. So let me just get some questions in here. See if I have any. Hi, Matthias. Welcome. Let's see. Thank you, Alvin. So Alvin, Alvin is saying that you have to make an appointment and go to the embassy, the Liberian embassy in Washington, D.C., in order to renew your passport. Again, because of COVID, just check the website and actually do that. So do you have to do a physical for the application? So you are basically applying for a green card. So green card applications require a medical examination report to be included with it. So you can either file the medical examination report with your application packet, or you bring it with you to the interview. If you have an interview, if they choose to waive your interview, they will just ask you to send it in to a particular address. So yes, this is just like any other green card application. It's just a different basis for applying for a green card, but you will still have to meet all the other requirements, including the medical examination. Okay. So again, thank you guys so much for asking your questions. Just know there's no, whatever questions you have, please put it in the comments, because if you have it, someone else probably have the same question. So let's help each other by putting our questions in the comments. So yeah, like I was saying, the Liberian Refugee Immigration Relief Act is something that I find that's special. And, I say that all the time, and I tell my clients that all the time. Like I literally, whenever I get someone that's Liberian on the phone, wanting a consultation, I get excited because I know this thing that can really change the person's life. So I push this, I tell people about it, and I will continue to tell people about it until December 20th, 2020, because it's just one of those things that is unique and we should all take advantage of it. I know DED is set to expire basically January 10th of next year. So this is basically giving people on DED the opportunity, or people that were on TPS, the opportunity to apply. So definitely apply if you qualify. So let's see. So Ekene is asking, can you apply for a K4, K3 visa after submitting an I-130 for your children? Yes. So that is, so the answer to that is yes. Once you apply for the I-130, you can submit the K visa to get your children here a bit faster. But yes, you can do that. So Alvin is asking, how much is the fees to apply? So to apply for a green card in the US, as of today, November 15, 2020, it is $1,225 for the filing fee. So that is how much it is as of today. I should warn you guys that, you know, they already approved a fee increase and it's just being put on hold because of COVID. The fees are probably, from what we're hearing on the back end, the fees will probably go up by January 1st. So if you want to, even if you don't qualify for this, but you want to apply for a green card or citizenship, this is the time to do it while the fees are still the same. Because as of, you know, once January gets around here, they will probably increase those fees. So again, just to answer that question again, the fees as of today is $1,225 to apply for a green card in the US. Okay. So thank you guys so much for the questions. If you have follow-up questions to my answers, feel free to ask those as well. We definitely, you know, my goal, like I said at the beginning, is to answer your questions as much as possible. That's really what this Q&A session is for. It's not really for me, it's more for you, because I know in our community, there's a lot of misinformation, and I want to make sure that there's a place that we can get together and actually talk about what's actually going on in immigration law and make sure that you are getting the right information, and I'm able to basically give you the knowledge that I have and I use every single day in my work. Okay. So let's talk about the type of documents you need to have to show that you have physical presence in the US, because that's something you will have to show in order to qualify for this green card application, right? In order to qualify under this, you need to show that you have continuous physical presence since November 20th, 2014. So again, like I said before, there's the principal applicant, which is the Liberian national that qualifies, that's applying. So this continuous physical presence only applies to the principal applicant. So the Liberian national that's applying and qualifies under this. That's who we're talking about when we're talking about the physical presence. So the spouse and the unmarried children do not have to have this physical presence. Okay, so if you are a Liberian national, and let's say you're married to a Ghanaian that just came into the US, let's say 2 years ago, you qualify under this, and your spouse qualifies under this, but they're not Liberian and they don't meet the physical presence requirement, it's fine. They can still apply because that physical presence requirement And the Liberian national requirement is only for the principal applicant. So the spouse and the children do not have to meet this requirement. They do not have to be Liberian nationals in order to apply. So this is another reason I find this, the way this act was worded, I find it really helpful to people that are, married to others outside of their own country. So Liberian nationals that are not married to Liberians can use this to not only get status for themselves, but for their family as well. So let's see. Ekana is asking, must you submit an I-485 after submitting an I-3, I-130 for kids under 16 years and living abroad? Well, unfortunately, the I-485 is only for people in the US. So that's the green card application, but that's specifically for people living in the US. So you have to be physically in the US in order to apply for a green card under the I-485. So if the children are outside of the US, they would have to go through what we call consular processing. So they will have to apply for a visa outside of the US. After your I-130 is approved, there's a whole process you go through with the embassy. The embassy schedules the interview, and then after the interview, they can be approved for their green card. But yes, they will still have to go through that process outside of the US, but the I-485 specifically is for people in the US. So they would not qualify if they are outside of the US. However, if I know you asked about the K visa for them. So if you file for the K and they come in after that, then you can apply for the 485, but not while they're still outside of the US. Okay, so this is a long one, guys. Alvin asks, I'm already approved. My wife filed for me and I did adjustment of status because I have a court date October 20th, 2021. Oh, October 2. Okay. Because I have a case with the immigration court. I haven't received my green card yet per the court until after my case, but can I still apply for it? Okay. So Alvin, correct me again if I'm wrong, but I think you're saying that you were approved for an I-130. That's what it seems like to me, that you were approved for an I-130. Or did you file for adjustment of status? Because typically if you are in immigration court, for those that don't know, if you're in immigration court, unless you're charged as an arriving alien, right? If you are not, when you're put in immigration court proceedings, you get something called a notice to appear, right? It tells you why the US government feels that you should be made to leave the US. And they will list on there whether you are an arriving alien or not. So if it says that you are an arriving alien, that means that you can apply for your green card with US Immigration Services and not immigration court. However, if it doesn't say that, then your application would need to be filed with the court and not USCIS. So that's something to keep in mind. So yes, Alvin. So even if you are on a student visa, if you're in immigration court, right? If you have an immigration court date, you'll have to look on that to see if you are charged as an arriving alien. So if it says arriving alien, then you can file your adjustment of status with USCIS. But if it doesn't, then you would have to file it with the court. So it's not really a matter of what status you are when you filed or anything like that. It's about what the notice to appear says. That's what determines where you would file your adjustment of status application. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Okay. So remember, if you're just joining us, this is a Q&A session. I will be talking about the Liberian Immigration Act. But in the meantime, please do put your questions in the comments, and I will respond. Let's see. Okay, so this is a very important point that Alvin is raising, is can he apply for the Liberian Green Card Act while in immigration court? And the answer to that is yes. So if you are Liberian and you are in immigration court, but you qualify under this act, you can, especially if you're charged with overstaying, right? If you overstay your visa or anything like that, you can definitely still apply, even if you're in immigration court, because that's why, again, I love this act, because it makes it possible for you to still apply whether you're in immigration court or not. So if you're in immigration court, you can apply. If you already lost your case in immigration court, and you have a final order of deportation, but you're still in the US, you can apply. Okay? If you lost your case in immigration court and you filed an appeal and you're still in the US, you can apply. So this is why this is so special. And you are applying with USCIS. So if you qualify under this act, your application is going to USCIS. It's not even going with a court, because with court, you have to wait for a court date, which right now they're scheduling like 3 years out at a time. So you really don't have to wait for immigration court under this act. You can apply directly with USCIS, specifically under this act. So even if you have an I-130 approved, you don't have to apply based on your I-130 if you qualify and meet all the requirements for this specific provision. So you can apply based on this. If you're applying, so if you're in immigration court and you're applying based on marriage, you have to look at whether you're an arriving alien or not. But if you're applying under this Green Card Act, it doesn't matter if you're an arriving alien or not. Only USCIS has jurisdiction to approve your case. The court doesn't have jurisdiction. They can review it after the fact, but in the meantime, your application is going to USCIS, and it's going to move quicker than immigration court. Okay. So like I said, if you are if you qualify and you're currently in immigration court, or here's the other thing, if you don't qualify, but you're married to a Liberian national that qualifies, guess what? You can still apply. So if you're not a Liberian national, but you're married to a Liberian national that meets all the requirements and can apply for this, again, the Liberian national has to be applying for this for you to benefit from it. So even if you're in immigration court, but you're married to a Liberian national that qualifies under this, you can still apply. Okay. Like I said, even if you have your case, even if you already lost your case, but you're married to a Liberian national, or you are a Liberian national that qualifies under this, even if you're still filing an appeal and all of that, you can still apply. And once you apply and this is granted, guess what? Your case goes away. The immigration case, court case, you can ask for that to be closed. And now you have a green card in the US. And the best part, I haven't even told you guys the best part. My very favorite part of this is if you meet the requirements, right, your date. So on every green card, it says date of residency, right? What date do you actually, would it say that you became a green card holder. That's the important date. That's a very important date because that's the date you look at when you go to apply for citizenship, because you need to have 5 years in the US as a green card holder to apply for citizenship. So if you meet the requirements of physical presence since November of 2014, you already have 5 years, right? So now the day that you get your green card in your hand is the day that you can apply for citizenship. Yeah, that's, like I said, this is one of my favorite things out there for my clients that qualify, because it is one of the best things. Because the day that you get your green card in your hand is the day that you can apply for citizenship, because you already met the 5-year requirement of having your green card, because your green card says that you've been a resident, a permanent resident of the US from the date of either November 20th, 2014, or an earlier date if you can show that you've been here before November 20th, 2014. Guys, if you qualify for this and you're not applying for it, I don't know what to tell you. Because the deadline, like I said, the deadline is it's a hard deadline. It's not going to, at this moment, there's no talk to extend it. Congress hasn't put it on any of their agendas to extend it. So it is, right now I'm treating it as a hard deadline, so that my clients know this is it. If you were on TPS, if you were on DED, this is it. This is a way for you to go from not having status to not only getting a green card, but qualifying to become a citizen on the same day you get your green card in your hand. So this is something that I, again, if you qualify, do it. And yes, Alvin, yes, this is what I like to see. Yes, definitely apply. If you meet the requirements, please apply, because we don't know if this is going to be extended, if it's going to come back. We don't know what it's going to look like, and you don't really want to hold off hoping that, something else comes along, because we don't know if something else is going to come along. So that's something to know. And then let's talk about physical presence, right? How do you actually show physical presence in the US? I have my clients, we try to show every single month since November 20th, 2014, or if you can show an earlier date. So if you came into 2010, and you can show from 2010 to the day that we file, that's even better, because then your green card will say that you got your residency in 2010 and not 2014. Okay, so that will also come in handy for people, for Social Security and things like that. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. So we try to show some form of documentation of residence in the US for each month. Yeah, I said it, each month. So bank statements are great, because they show, especially if it's you're the only one on their account, it's amazing, because especially if you use your debit card a lot, or if you have direct deposit for your paycheck. Those are great to show that you are not only physically in the US, but like you're actively physically in the US. Okay. So pay stubs, employment records, school records, medical records, church. Listen, if you've never been to the hospital, you never, went to school here, most of us have been to church. So if you've registered to a church, if you have bank statements, receipts, basically anything that you have your name on that has a date on it, all those things matter. And we can use all of that to show that you have been physically present in the US. And then I also have my clients list, especially if they were on a visa during that between 2014 and now, if they were actively on a visa and they were going in and out of the US, definitely list the dates that you were out, because we need to calculate to make sure that you still meet the physical presence requirement. Remember, that has to be, that's really important, because you have to show that you are, that you are maintaining your physical presence, that it is continuous. So 180 days of absence is excused. But if you have more than 180 days, then we'll need to have a conversation. But beyond that, you should be able to show that. And then Alvin is asking, how about W-2s? I have used W-2s. However, I do recommend doing pay stubs or getting even a letter from an employer saying that you weren't employed from this date to this date, and your schedule, your work schedule. Those kind of things are really helpful in these situations, because you want to be able to show not only are you, yes, your W-2 will say you made this much in, let's say 2015, you made this much. That's great. That's what your W-2 says, but it doesn't say your, how long you were employed for, if there were months that you missed. So that's something to keep in mind with those. It doesn't really say that, but bank statements and things like that are really, really helpful in showing that. I know one of my clients, we did bank statements, and for, it was a huge stack. We had over 400 pages of documents that we sent in to show physical presence, but it's worth it, because it really, you want to show as much documentation as possible, because you just want your application approved. So that's something to keep in mind. Even though you can put some other documents in and hope that at the interview you can explain or whatever, I'd rather just get those application, those packets, and include as much documentation of physical presence as possible on the front end, so that you don't end up delaying your case because they would ask for it later. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you have had any interactions with the police, this is a big one, right? So even if it's, you had to go to court for a traffic ticket, guys, even if you had a traffic ticket, things like that, I usually include them, because you just want to cover your bases. You really just want to cover your bases, because you don't want anything, again, to delay your case. So we look at criminal records, juvenile records, immigration court records, because we want to include as much of those as possible in the front end. Again, immigration court records doesn't really affect whether you can apply for this or not. However, depending on what you were charged, depending on the allegations on your notice to appear. For example, if there's a charge in there for fraud or misrepresentation, that's something that would make someone inadmissible. But if you qualify for a waiver, you're fine. So that's something we would need to disclose and, talk about and figure out the best options for you. And if you do qualify for a waiver, we would then work up the waiver and include it with your application, so that everything is processed at the same time and there's no delays. Oh, hi, Don. Welcome. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments. And if you are watching this on the replay, thank you. And you can also put your questions in the comments, because I will come back and answer them. So definitely don't feel that you can't ask me questions if you're watching this on a later date. Okay. So, and then if you would like to schedule a consultation with me to discuss either this or any other immigration questions, please feel free to schedule a consultation because, again, I do this to give you as much information as I can possibly give you, but I can't do a case specific analysis for you because I'm not looking at any of your documents. I'm not looking at, I'm not talking to you in person to see exactly what we can get additional information from you. So I can't really go in depth into your particular situation and whether you qualify for this or not. But what I can do is give you the information on what makes someone eligible and what doesn't make what makes someone ineligible, and we can always move forward from that. So if you want to schedule a case evaluation with me, you can definitely call my office and we will schedule that either in person or on video, because with COVID, we are definitely doing more virtual consultations, so over the phone or Zoom, all of those. I believe I did one on WhatsApp with someone outside of the country. So again, if you are outside of the country, you can definitely message us or call us on WhatsApp on this phone number. So we try to make our office as accessible as possible. Like I said, I represent people in the US and outside of the US, so I have to make it as accessible as possible to everyone. Okay. Okay, so Don has some questions. How can one get a social security number while their green card is in progress? So typically in my office, when we apply for a green card, we don't just send the one green card application. We also send a work authorization. And once the work authorization is approved, you can get a green card. You can get a social security number. So in order to get a social security number, you need either a green card or a work authorization. Those are the two ways to get a social, at least for my clients, those are the two ways to get a social in the US when you're applying for a green card. So if you did not apply for work authorization, I would definitely suggest doing that. Typically in most states, the work authorization is approved before your interview. So you would at least be able to start working. And the Social Security number application is also included with the work authorization application. So you kind of get both of them at the same time. So like I said, in my office, you wouldn't even be asking that question because we would already be waiting for that to come in because we apply, like I said, we apply for all of that at the same time to make sure that you are good to go as far as working and taking care of your family. Don, can you clarify what you mean by this? You have a reading visa to up a year. Please just clarify that for me and I can answer it for you. Okay, so just if you are just joining us, we are talking about the Liberian Refugee Immigration Relief Act. That basically gives Liberian nationals that have been in the US since November 20th, 2014, the opportunity to apply for a green card in the US. So this applies to not just the Liberian national that's applying, their spouse and their unmarried children can apply with them as well. So, and the most important, the other thing is, even if the Liberian national already applied, even if their application is already approved, their spouse and their unmarried children can still apply. So, but the deadline again is a hard deadline. It is December 20th, 2020. So your application has to be delivered to USCIS by that date. Okay, so you cannot mail your applications in on December 20th. unless, of course, you're doing same day delivery. But this is a very hard deadline as of this time. If that changes, if Congress decides to extend it, I will definitely let you guys know. But for right now, there's nothing, at least that I know, in the plans to extend it. So you definitely want to apply as soon as possible. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the spouse and unmarried children. So in order for a spouse or unmarried child to qualify to apply with the principal Liberian applicant, you would have to not only be in that relationship. So let's say you are applying today, you need to be married at least by yesterday, right? You can't start the relationship after you apply. It doesn't work that way. So you have to be already in that relationship before you apply, and you have to maintain that relationship until your application is approved. So you would have to, especially for spouse, you would have to show that you are still married and that your marriage is real in order to qualify under this. So those are still things that you would need to qualify, especially if you are applying as a spouse of a principal applicant. You just have to show that your marriage is real, you were in your marriage before you applied, and you are still in your marriage at the time your application was approved. Okay, so that's really the main thing to keep in mind on that. The relationship has to exist before you apply and has to exist at the time of your approval in order for you to remain eligible. Okay, so valid visa up to 1 year. You never apply for work authorization to the person that did your process, never did both together. How much will it cost for work authorization? Now you have waited for like ever. Okay, so if you didn't apply for the work, one second, everyone. Sorry about that. So if you didn't apply for the work authorization at the outset, that's what you really, that's the real issue here, is that you didn't apply. That's why you're waiting so long. But the main thing is, if you didn't apply for the work authorization, you should just go ahead and apply. There is no filing fee because it's bundled with the green card application. You just have to show proof that your green card application is pending. So if your green card application is pending, then you can apply for work authorization without an additional fee. If that's really what you have to do. For people that's going to be applying, let's say in January for a green card and want to apply with a work authorization, you might be looking at paying for a green card fee separately. That's something to keep in mind. So if you are applying today for work authorization, you will only pay for a green card application fee. You won't have to pay the additional $410 for the work authorization. But once the filing fee goes up, it will no longer be bundled, and you will have to pay not only for the green card application, you will also have to pay a separate fee for the work authorization. So that's why I really push people, if you know you're going to apply and you qualify to apply for something now, just apply for it. Okay, let's go ahead and get you on your way to applying, because you don't really want to wait till later and end up having to pay more for the same thing that you're going to apply for now. Okay, so Ekene is asking, we I'm guessing with the ban for immigrant visas from for nationals of some country, can those nationals apply for K3 while on I-130? So that's a great area. It really depends on the embassy. So some embassies are treating the K visas as immigrant visas because technically, technically they're non-immigrant visas. And I'm guessing you're talking about Nigeria. Nigeria is on the travel ban list. So there is no immigrant visas from Nigeria at this time, but there are still non-immigrant visas available. Again, the embassy has to be open for all of that, but that's a separate issue from what you're asking. So basically, the embassy has to be willing to treat the K3 or the K4 visa as a non-immigrant visa. And if they treat it as a non-immigrant visa, then they would be able to come in on that and apply for a green card in the US. However, there have been instances where the embassy has treated those as immigrant visas. So it's really up to the embassy. And right now, even if you did apply, unless the embassy is open, we're not sure. There's no opening date. They're just doing emergency cases only right now. So there's not really this is the firm date that the embassy is going to be open. So that's something to keep in mind. But if they are open, it really depends on if they buy the argument that K visas are non-immigrant visas. And from what we've seen, they are treating them as immigrant visas in the travel banned countries. So that's something to keep in mind because it's not like the K1, which is a fiancé visa, which does not require a filing of an I-130. It's technically, that's more of a non-immigrant visa than a K4. So there are those back and forth. But if you're willing to apply for it, I would say, if money is not an issue, I would say you can always try that and see if it works. So if there are any more questions, please put them in the comments. Our time is almost up. This was great, guys. So if you have any questions and if you're watching this on the replay, please feel free to put your comments. And if you have found this helpful, live helpful, please do share it with your community, like the video. And if you do not follow us, or if you haven't liked our page yet, please go ahead and do so that you can get notified whenever we do a live. We're trying to do these lives more frequently so that we can get you information as soon as it's coming out. So please do like our page. And of course, if you follow us on Instagram, please go ahead and do that over there as well. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me for this 1 hour live. And I will be posting on the page when the next live is going to be and what the topic is. So like I said, ask your questions because sometimes I just turn your question into a topic for our live. So I want to say thank you, and I hope you have a great week and just continue to be great. Okay, we are all immigrants here, and we have a lot to look forward to. So feel free again to share this video if you found it helpful, and I hope you have a great week, guys. Have a good night.